This is the new iPhone 16 after the hype. The way Apple wanted to improve a couple of things meant that the iPhone 16, the base model, actually had a significant improvement in terms of camera and video capability. So I wanted to look into how much of an improvement it is and how does it perform in terms of photos and video. And well, we are gonna focus on that mostly in this video, but before we go into that, I just wanted to really quickly go over what this phone has to offer other than the camera and the video capabilities. This phone is an aluminum body design with, I would say, a rather nice color. This is, I would say, the flagship color of the 16 base model, and I wanted to see how good that looks. If you like the colorful phones, it's definitely a nice one to go for. Also, it's a little bit on the smaller size, so I would say it's like a more of a compact size in 2024 compared to competition especially. So overall, it's a really nice phone. Also, to add to this, there's actually a new, I would say not a button, but a kind of like a digital button on the side, a touch button, which we're going to talk about in a second, as it's more connected to the photo and video side of the phone. Also, we have a nice Retina display, which is a really nice screen in terms of colors, contrast, and overall looks. So it's a really nice, display. The only thing that I feel it's missing is actually a 60 Hz display. So if you've been using other phones, especially that you can get cheaper phones with a really nice AMOLED displays that have 120 Hz, this does definitely feel not as premium as other phones, even that are much cheaper than this. I feel like that is something that should have not been on this phone, but I know that the Pro models do have that, and it's something definitely noticeable if you already use phones with 120 Hz displays. So let's go to the main topic of today's video, the camera. So how good are the cameras on the base iPhone 16? Essentially, we have two camera setup, with the main being a 48 megapixel camera sensor and the other one being an ultra-wide 12 megapixel sensor. Essentially, we don't have any other sensors on this, so we're limited to the wide angle and the main camera sensor. But I have to say, the different things that Apple wanted to change meant that they had to improve the cameras. So the sensors did have a nice upgrade, even on the base model of iPhone 16. I would say it is probably the biggest upgrade in terms of all of the models this year. So I wanted to see in real world situation how good those cameras actually are. So the main definitely works really nicely. The dynamic range is really nice, so while it is taking down the highlights and pushing up the shadows, making the photo maybe a little bit more HDR-like, but the high dynamic range tends to just give a little bit more of an eye-pleasing photo, just looking better than the competition. Thanks to this, I guess it is the way Apple makes those photos that while they're not as accurate in terms of colors and rendition, they do feel eye-pleasing, and I feel like that is the main goal for the iPhone phones. The photos look really colorful, nice saturation, sharpness, and contrast. Everything looks really good with nice high dynamic range. On the wide angle, we have the 12 megapixel sensor, which looks really good. It's also really consistent compared to the main camera. It's nice, really nice colors, sharp, and overall just looks really good. So between the two, you have that consistency that both look similarly, but also really good. And even in low light situation, this phone performed great in photo department on both of the lenses. It's definitely something that I feel is the software, because this is definitely more about the software that the iPhone has than just the hardware itself. Well, there is no Pro mode, and you cannot set up everything the way you would like to, and we don't have the RAW capabilities from the photos. We do have something new, and that is color styles. Essentially on the top, we now have an option to change the color styles. Thanks to this, we can swipe to have a different photo. For example, we want a little bit more, different looking photo. So we want a little bit more vibrancy, different color palette, essentially like a built-in filters. We can also do the thing manually. So as you can see the box on the bottom, the way you can change it, so moving it around will change the photos. Give it a little bit more vibrancy, the saturation, the tone will be a little bit different. You can even do like a black and white photo thanks to this. Essentially, making it like an easier option in terms of having, instead of having the Pro option, you have the style option. Thanks to this, even without the Pro mode, you still can have the photos to your liking. Also, the front camera is a 12 megapixel selfie camera. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised how good the cameras on the back are. The photos look kind of like a really good photo for social media, ready to go straight from the camera. Essentially, this is what I feel like Apple is going for with the base model. It's not for someone that wants to play with all the settings and have the most settings available, but rather someone that wants to take a photo and wants it to be as good as possible straight from the camera, that it looks eye-pleasing and that you can actually put on your social media or send to friends. This is what they're aiming for, and it's doing amazingly good at this. So one thing with the iPhone, while it has great photos in a really low-key camera setup, I noticed that when you are aiming anywhere near the sun or any light source, the lens flare is definitely visible, and the worst thing is more like a spot. So it's not like a nice lens flare, it's more like a burned in spot in the photo. So I wish that was not the case. In terms of video, it's a pretty much similar case. Well, we can record in 4K 60 frames per second on both of the camera modules, and thanks to this, you can seamlessly change between the two when recording. And you can also zoom in, but that is going to be a digital zoom. So the more you zoom, it's gonna look a little bit less good. Overall, the 4K 60 frames per second looks really good on both of the lenses. And while it's once again the same case of being a little bit less color accurate and less, real world looking, the high dynamic range and overall look of the video is gonna look eye pleasing. And I guess this is once again going not for the realism, but more for something that looks good and is social media ready. You can also record in 240 frames per second in full HD, which if you wanted to do, you can do it. And once again, there is no Pro modes on the base model. And also the stabilization is really nice too. One thing that is missing is the ProRes format. So essentially you cannot record in ProRes and edit in post-production. It just makes it more like a point and shoot camera, and whatever video or photo you take with it, that is how it's gonna look in the end result. But it's gonna be really good anyway. So it's like a point and shoot camera that takes really good photos and videos right from the camera without any extra editing needed after taking it. And one more new feature is actually the physical, button that is more like a touch button on the top. You can change the zoom, the lenses, and also other settings, but in my opinion, it's placed in the wrong spot. Essentially, this is where my finger lands, and I would wish it was right here so that I could just, use it like this, but it's actually placed much farther all the way here, and I cannot, put my fingers in any way to make it work. Essentially, I would have to do it like this, making it very uncomfortable. If it was here, it would be perfect. But I just feel like the way it is made is something that is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I just feel like it's much easier now to change the things on the screen itself than play with that. But it's there, so if you're into that kind of stuff and you can make it work, it's definitely a cool thing to have. But it's not something that I would say is a game changer or, something that I would buy this phone for. And to be honest, in our testing, we barely even used it, just because it was not in the place that was really fitting for any of us to use it. Overall, if you're looking for a phone that really has great videos, great photos, straight out of the camera, this is a great option, especially if you want to stay in the Apple ecosystem. But there is one caveat. If you're looking for something that is the best in this price range, we recently tested the Xiaomi 14T Pro, which is exactly the same price at the moment here in Poland, and essentially you could even get it cheaper if you had it right away, and probably there's going to be more promos coming up soon. But the phone is about the same price as this. And that phone actually has a 144Hz display. I would say it's more like a 120Hz display for most day scenario, but it can go all the way up to 144Hz. Also, it has triple camera system with a telephoto lens, which is pretty nice, and just overall more pro features than the iPhone 16 has. So if you're interested in a different alternative that is similarly priced, check out the video review of that phone in the top right corner of the screen. But with that being said, I feel like this is a great tool for those that want a just ready to go, great photos, and are not into the pro modes and just want something that is like a point and shoot camera that takes videos and photos in great quality. If that is something for you, this I can highly recommend. If you have any more questions about the iPhone 16, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, that is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.